It was a late October night when Eric found himself driving down Route 56, a desolate stretch of highway that snaked through the dense woods of Northern California. The sky was a deep indigo, the stars barely visible through the thick fog that clung to the trees like an ancient curse. Eric had been on this road before many times, actually, but tonight felt different. The headlights of his car cut through the darkness, and his fingers gripped the steering wheel a little tighter than usual. The radio was playing an old, static-laden country song, its crackling sound filling the silence that would have been almost unbearable, if not for the strange sense of unease creeping over him. He glanced at the rearview mirror. There was nothing but the faint glimmer of his own car's headlights in the distance. Yet something about the road ahead unsettled him. It wasn't the fog, it wasn't the isolation, it wasn't even the creeping chill in the air. It was the sound. A whistle, low and haunting, echoing through the dense trees on either side of the road. Eric's breath caught in his throat. He had heard it before, a faint and eerie melody that seemed to come from nowhere. He turned off the radio, straining to listen. There it was again, a soft, melodic whistle that sent a shiver down his spine. He told himself it was just the wind, or perhaps the rustling of the trees, but deep down he knew that wasn't it. There was someone out there, moving in the shadows, just beyond the reach of his headlights. Eric glanced at the clock on the dashboard. It was nearly midnight. He was on the final stretch of his drive, and there was only one gas station for miles. He debated whether to stop or keep going. The whistle persisted, growing louder now, though it still seemed distant, as if coming from far deeper in the forest. He took a deep breath, trying to push the anxiety away, and accelerated, hoping the sound would fade as he moved forward. The whistle was closer. It was strange, almost rhythmic, like someone was walking alongside the road, hidden from view, making its way through the woods. But the more Eric thought about it, the more it made no sense. No one would be out here at this hour, especially not in these conditions. And yet, the sound was undeniable. The next thing that caught his attention was the figure. It was standing by the side of the road, just a few yards ahead. At first, it appeared to be a shadow, barely visible in the dense fog, but as Eric's car drew nearer, he saw the silhouette of a man. His heart skipped a beat. The man was tall, dressed in dark clothing, his face hidden beneath the brim of a wide weathered hat. Eric couldn't make out his features, but the figure didn't move, didn't acknowledge the car speeding toward him. Eric slowed down, unsure of what to do. The whistle had stopped, but the silence now felt heavier than ever. As he passed the man, something strange happened. The figure's head turned slowly, and Eric's breath caught in his chest. The man's eyes glowing faintly in the darkness fixed on him for a brief moment before the whistle started up again, sharper this time, echoing in his ears. It was coming from directly behind him. He glanced in the rear-view mirror. The man was following. Eric's foot slammed onto the gas pedal. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest as his car tore down the road, the headlights now cutting through the fog like a blade. The whistle grew louder, and though he was going well above the speed limit, it seemed like the figure was keeping pace. The trees on either side of the road blurred into dark streaks of shadow, but the sound of the whistle remained constant, steady, as if it was attached to something that was too close to real to ignore. He glanced to the side of the road again. The man was no longer visible, but Eric could still hear the whistle, like a thread weaving through the darkness. The air felt thicker now, heavier, almost suffocating. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. Suddenly, the fog cleared for a moment, and ahead, he saw the glow of lights, a gas station. Eric's eyes darted back to the road. There was no turning back now. He had to stop. He had to get out of the car. He pulled into the gas station, tires screeching on the gravel as he slammed on the brakes. He didn't care about the fuel. He didn't care about anything except the cold, gnawing terror in his gut. The whistle had stopped, but its presence lingered, filling his chest with dread. The sound was still in his head, still echoing with a strange, hollow finality. Eric rushed out of the car, his feet hitting the pavement hard as he looked around. The gas station was eerily quiet. The only movement, the flickering neon light above the pumps. He wasn't sure why, but he walked towards the station's small convenience store. He reached for the door and, as his hand touched the handle, it swung open with a sudden creak. Behind the counter was an old man. He was hunched over, his eyes deep-set and tired, staring blankly at the floor. His long gray beard draped over his chest, and his hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the worn-out register. His presence felt wrong. Eric's voice cracked when he spoke. Do you hear it? The whistle? There's someone out there, following me." The old man looked up, his eyes distant, unreadable. His lips twitched into a faint, almost knowing smile. "You're not the first," he said softly. "You won't be the last." Eric's blood ran cold. He took a step back, his mind racing. What do you mean?" The old man chuckled, a rasping sound that made Eric's skin crawl. Route 56. The Whistler. Been haunting this road for decades. They say he doesn't want to be found. He'll follow anyone who stops on this stretch of highway. The whistle is his call. You hear it? That means he's coming for you. Doesn't matter how fast you drive. Doesn't matter if you stop or run. He'll catch you eventually. Eric's heart stopped. What happens to the ones he catches? The old man's eyes glinted, and his voice dropped to a whisper. They disappear. Eric spun around, his legs unsteady beneath him. He bolted for his car, but the moment he stepped outside, the whistle returned, louder than before, and in the fog, he could see the figure. The tall man with the glowing eyes was waiting by the side of the road, his lips curling into a smile. Eric froze. His car was just a few feet away, but he couldn't move. The Whistler was closing in. Then, with a final gust of wind, the world went dark. And Eric was never seen again. If you managed to survive this terrifying tale, consider subscribing. You never know what horrors await in the next story. Stay with us, for your safety, or perhaps, just perhaps, it might be your only chance to escape the curse that lingers on Route 56. If you dare,